I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Everybody could take a minute to review last month's minutes. Motion by Chris. Second by Steve. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes. Tonight's topic, discussion and review of ordinance 124 as it relates to the future land use map and the annexation agreement with Cedar Rapids. Those are about 60 pages deep of material, one of which was a long report from CID. Ordinance 124 was the ordinance we came up with last month for M1 and M2 height restrictions. Unanimous decision to lift those height restrictions for M1 and M2. Obviously, one for potential power plant and two for potential growth to the south in the future land use industrial area south of Fairfax. First, I think I'd like to look at the annexation boundary between Cedar Rapids and Fairfax, just to kind of set the tone here. So, what was that, January 24th? I think.
Maybe.
So me, Cynthia, Chris, and the mayor met with Cedar Rapids for our new annexation agreement with them. It's approximately 4 meetings, if I remember correctly, and then obviously some back and forth after that. But this was the final agreement we came up with. The red is already existing Fairfax. The hashed line that you'll see on the east side of Fairfax is the new boundary separating us and Cedar Rapids annexation area. And the orange that accompanies that, along with the red to the west from there, is the potential annexed area, which would be area B. Area A would be Cedar Rapids. So obviously we're talking forth the south regarding the topic for this evening. So the one area that was already industrial, as you can see there, and then I'll simply, if you want to switch to, well, actually, we'll stay here.
Okay.
So this was the final thing we came up with. The other thing I want to mention, there was no mention of a proposed runway during any of this discussion.
When did you say that discussion was, Jeff? I'm sorry.
Started in January of 24.
Okay, thank you.
There was 4 meetings, probably over the course of, I think, 5-6 months, maybe. But then obviously it's a little bit of back and forth email, and then this was kind of the final agreement. Like I said,
The rest of it will give and take on that.
correct. Obviously with 80th Street, obviously part of the discussion was the corner up there with 80th and kind of the 3100 interchange. Ideally, Fairfax would like to have all the way up to there. There was some back and forth with Cedar Rapids. Cedar Rapids did mention at one point they did at their own time put that off ramp from 100, where the 130 interchanges that they didn't pay for that on their own dime. It wasn't cheap, so, obviously,
They thought they would do the land, kind of the
Well-
investment that they had.
yeah, I'll give them some credit. Yeah, a little bit, but, then also, the other thing you gotta do is like smart planning, they have to put in lift stations and other stuff. So kind of where we're at, most of the ground up there slopes back to Fairfax. So that was the other reason, for infrastructure and whatnot, it made more sense. And then obviously the south, they didn't put up much of a fight, which I thought was intriguing, so,
Especially now.
yeah, so now it's a little more clear, and I'm not saying there was anything, done in that way, but it just seemed a little. So this was the end result of those discussions. So, let's now flip to the future land use map.
Sorry, I may have to go in the kitchen and get it changed.
Better. Okay. So based on the agreement, we've expanded our future land use map, going back to last year. Future land use is something we've been looking at, for the 10 years I've been here, and it's obviously grown and changed a little bit depending on kind of growth and different things, but, with the already existing Trevero site, that was already industrial, obviously based. Well, yeah, M1. It made the most sense to continue that down to the south. It's already abutting. Was in a big cedar project, so, you can't really put residential there, obviously. And most of the land to the east, which would be the Cedar Rapids area, that is going to be industrial of some sort. So obviously it makes sense for us to have a budding industrial to propose Cedar Rapids area, and then around Wright Brothers and Left Beer Road, that would be kind of a line of commercial mixed in as well, have a buffer of commercial then to industrial along those roadways there. So that is what we decided to do to the south, obviously to the north, and then obviously to the west. More residential and commercial along major roadways. Obviously makes the most sense there, so, based on the agreement we have with Cedar Rapids, this is what we came up with. We're extending further south, north, and west. Made the most sense for future land use. Questions on that? Comments? Let's go to. I guess now that we've seen that, let's go to look at the approach pass for the new runway, proposed runway.
So that would be the future flight path.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So the next step for the.
Will that hurt? That big enough?
That's fine. So kind of see the cone shape that's going towards the new proposed runway. From west to east there. I believe that hashed area is the Alliant / Trevero area, is that correct, Cynthia?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, okay, the L shape or the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've seen this diagram before, this would be the approach path to the new proposed runway. And then obviously the main airport is to the south there. We've seen, you can kind of see the outlay of that cone. It kind of crisscrosses near Wright Brothers. So those are the existing flight path and then the other flight path for the new proposed runway. Now keep in mind, the proposed Alliance site, really clearly for me, it's outside of that cone. I know there's other mitigating factors, which we'll discuss further, but, well, that's, looking at this, and that's something we have to obviously take into consideration. And then,
Jeff, up above.
Yeah.
It says possible line energy power plant, Big Cedar Industrial Center, what's that?
so,
Up, do you see it up there?
yeah,
Above the yellow? Up there?
Yeah.
What is that up there?
This is not a map the city made. This came from the airport.
They may have labeled it that.
That should be on the
I
other
see.
side of the road.
Right, well, that's why I was like, that's not where it's going.
No,
That's right.
That's Big Cedar's over.
I think that was the
maybe that's right.
blankest part of the map that they could write on maybe.
Yeah, I don't have anything more on this, obviously. It's a proposed runway. The other thing, I'd like to look at is that approach impact on the future land use map, which I believe.
This one,
That one, I believe.
Shane.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
so this is also looking at. Now that we've looked at our future land use map based on the annexation agreement we have with Cedar Rapids, we can now see. What impact that is going to have to the south. With that proposed runway. Pretty much a good chunk of industrial. To the south is gonna be impacted, to the west of. Left Ear Road, future land use map, we saw potential residential. Those of you that are at the council meeting, I think Shane did a pretty good job. I'm not sure how many people are gonna want to build. A residential neighborhood or live with large planes coming over them, like,
Or finding the builders to do it.
correct, I mean, it's. Oh. Go ahead.
Well, sort of, DP. Or
Yeah,
outfit that will build anything anywhere. It's just not, it's not prime location. Building by that.
so it really limits what we can do to the south, in my opinion. What industrial can go there, what residential can be built, and what can go in that area that's gonna make sense.
The closer it gets to the actual runway, the less commercial can be done.
Right, I mean,
Commercial building can be done
Yeah.
too, so.
yeah, you're talking,
It really,
one story buildings maybe.
yeah, it really limits that
Yeah.
immensely.
So. This is gonna have a huge impact in the south. Either way you cut it, whether it's directly south of the proposed. Trevero power plant area, all the way down to Wright Brothers. I get the airport's got a lot of, issues with this project. The other thing, this is the first project we have. Got a call?
I'm trying
Oh.
but.
I don't want this to set a precedent for everything that's gonna go south there, is kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, if they object to this project, what's the next project that's gonna happen? And as things continue to build south, is there gonna be continued objection to projects we're trying to do for the city of Fairfax? Like I said, don't get me wrong, I understand the airport's concerns, but the other thing I gotta look out for is the city of Fairfax. And we can't grow industrial. As we continue to grow in size, Fairfax has continued to be one of the faster growing communities in Iowa. As you grow, I think it always makes sense to have a good mix of residential, commercial, and industrial. To offset, the expenses and things like that, so. I don't wanna be super limited in what we can do.
And percentage wise, that's a huge percentage of future growth. That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what percentage that is, I can guess it's probably 50 or so percentage in that neighborhood.
Well,
But
in terms of potential tax base, obviously, the more areas for residential, the tax base alone, what the potential is there. That's also a concern of mine. Right, with what can go there.
Almost becomes useless,
Right,
if you think
Far
about
away,
it.
that's it.
yeah. You got asked to, and have an agreement with stuff we can't do anything with.
Mhm.
And that doesn't really do anything good for the city of Fairfax.
And that is correct, the closer it migrates towards the airport, the smaller the structures and more restrictions.
yes.
And that's all based on glide slope.
We'll say too, in that meeting, the airport brought up that the airport owns it and the city commissions it, but really it's just a fancy way of saying. The city doesn't own it, so they get grants, the city more or less does own the airport.
Yeah.
It's kind of a. Yeah, interesting thing, you brought up that, I looked it up, it's like, yeah, it's the city still. It's just a way to get grants and basically, so. Future land use map, that's interesting, they let that kind of go now, so, the annexation map.
And our future land use has been out there for a while, our intent's been to go south, and again. There should be collaboration with surrounding communities, we just haven't seen it, this has been sprung on us.
But we've got to beat that dead horse because. Previous mayor went to the airport to try to get a couple of seats on board and then. So, I think you were involved in that. And that, how could we collaborate in place?
And we're
Tennessee,
the nearest community to the airport.
and nobody else has signed off on this. No, I don't think any of the other cities have signed off on it either.
The one we
Other than-
represented, what was that, May?
Other than maybe Walford. I don't think anybody's agreed to their,
I don't know that they have to, if there's some action they have to take.
well, I'm sure there's not.
The guy presented to us. Said thanks, but no thanks, and I haven't seen anything since, so.
I think it's rather ironic that they never brought it up, as we're discussing the border
In January
in January
24th.
last year.
I do too.
They put up a fight.
Not much we can do about it now, but. Like I said, I know there's a lot of other things. With this power plant, obviously, I know it's a hot topic in the community. It's not guaranteed to go where it's proposed at, I know they have other sites they're looking at. I just don't want the airport to have influence. Because if it happens now, it's gonna continue to happen as we try to expand south. So I don't wanna set a precedent of what can and can't go there. Other reason part, obviously, with this ordinance that we've opposed with lifting height restrictions. Doesn't mean the city has to move forward with any project, you know, council still has the final say, but it does say we wanna go south and have the potential to build something of substance down there, so, so that's why we have to look at all this. We also, you know, keep the city of Fairfax in the forefront. Obviously, have to listen to the airport as well, but, you know, our job is to help Fairfax grow smartly, expand to the south, expand to the north. Again, I don't want this project to set a precedence for what moves on forward as we move south.
So what do we need to do? Do we just say this is now M1, M2, and we can have unlimited height and then,
We've already proposed that.
Yeah, that's
So,
already been submitted to
right,
Early October council meeting.
right,
essentially what we're doing is just rediscussing
okay.
the.
I didn't know if we had to.
There's
For
obviously
something.
new information has come up in the last 30 to 60 days, so. Well, the last two council meetings and our last meeting. I just wanna make sure everybody's on the same page.
And for those that weren't at the council, meeting,
Right,
you know,
same thing.
there's some opposition to the bar.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's a percentage of the votes and
That we're there.
we need to listen to
Yeah.
that also.
Yeah. Agreed. No, we're here for the city, we're here for the citizens. We're here to hear all angles,
Absolutely.
take everything into consideration. And what's best for the community, what's best for the city.
But we can't allow somebody else to drive our bus.
Right.
Sure.
And that's, I mean, that's.
Well, that's what I'm
essentially
saying, what can we do to stop them?
Well, that, the change of that zoning is our ammunition. I mean, if the count, and it's up, you know, it's always up to the council.
Right.
We recommend.
The
recommendation. Right. And if they, you know, if they were to decide to change that zoning, then that's
Got changes.
That's putting up a fight. right. Or if, you know, if the airport would be able to maybe propose something that would help us out and not limit us. Then maybe there's something there, but you know, they can't expect us to roll over just because they said it.
They did.
You're exactly right, they did expect, you know.
And acceptable land uses.
But everything that, you know, on several of those points that say it's a negative impact, it always goes back to the FAA, and the FAA will not stop this, first of all.
Right.
They've already said it. They may have to go back and say this is a hazardous, potential hazardous condition. I believe that's the terminology that they use.
That sounds right, yeah.
And that's the only thing. I mean, that's the difference between us rolling over and they going back there, so they may determine it as a potential hazard. But that's the only phrasing. So,
I was reviewing that CID report that came out that was just issued this.
right,
week.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and on page 37, there's some, I'm not a flight expert, so I could read math wrong. But they're showing like a proposed, they must be lengthening that southern west runway.
Yeah, I think it's this one. It says potential.
Yeah, and then they show the proposed, like the flight path, it goes right over UTS and Google, so I find it kind of ironic that
Yes.
they're showing that as acceptable.
They have like 32 towers.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
And we're talking about,
But here, yeah, I might be reading that wrong, because I buy flight tickets.
That's what they provided us.
Yeah,
And that, you know, like you say, that those cooling towers are water cooled towers.
Uh-huh.
Proposed plant here is an air facility, so there's a major difference in that, and it's one of the few in the country.
Mhm.
So,
the fearful thing I have is the amount of misinformation that is being let out and talked about. And then magnified and then misconstrued. A
It's like
little,
social media.
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen the same thing.
and a little bit of an analogy. For what this plan is, natural gas, we all understand that. We all have furnaces in our house,
Right.
so if you wanna understand how it works. Look at your neighbor's house when the furnace is running. During the cold months. And you will see that plume come out and dissipate. So if a natural gas. Equipped power plant. Yes, it's gonna have stacks, we've already adjusted that to 190 foot, whatever it is. Is gonna have the same effect. At all of our houses. Releasing that same gas, if that has been proven deadly, correct me if I'm wrong. We're already in trouble.
Well, this is a regulated facility.
Highly,
Our home is
highly,
not regulated. This
highly
is a highly regulated facility. And, you know, it's all according to EPA standards.
Yep,
Uh,
there are no furnace police to come around and check our furnaces
right.
for efficiency.
Yeah.
So, not regulated.
And as they were, you know, at the meeting, they were asked if the regulations were lessened, would they lessen
Your restriction.
their restrictions on the facility? And they said, no, the facility is built for these regulations to operate at its optimal
Yep.
pace. And to lower them would not do them any good. So they would keep keep it sane.
And it's simple business, right? I'm not gonna let a plant run inefficiently and spend more
Right.
on natural gas because it's running at 80%. I'm gonna try to get.
There's a lot to that efficient running. And
That's big money.
but again, I think the biggest problem is, if there is a problem with the city, is the lack of education.
It is.
People just don't know. I mean, I've been out talking to my neighbors. They just don't know. And so, you know, we need to do what we can to educate folks on that. I guess that's gonna be a big step forward, I believe.
Difficult for sure. I mean, I speculate in my mind what would happen if this was all shot down. And it went quite literally on the other side of the fence.
That's.
I've already speculated that.
You still gotta look at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still gonna.
You're still gonna be concerned with everything that's coming out of that stack. You're still gonna hear it if it is, I've never heard it, if it is audible. If it is very little, we have enough noise going on in this town, I think it would just disappear.
I would have never been to that.
We need to take you to the gate. You need to go up there and check the gate out.
Val, I don't believe you have. I think everybody else here has been to that facility in Marshalltown.
I trust your opinions.
It is at the gate, which is, well, I think, what Tom said was 1,200 feet away.
Yes.
You could hear crickets
Flower.
Over,
over the noise.
okay.
And Sue picked up the phone to get access through the gate, and I'm sitting there going, this thing on.
Right. And it was.
Now, when you're inside, yeah, there's noise.
Sure.
You got moving parts, it's mechanical, but, you know, away from the facility,
But even when we were inside that monitoring room,
yeah, it was quiet.
we took our.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're
headsets
gonna have that, that's a suppressed sound.
That's OSHA.
area.
But
But when I was up there with the first bunch, it was on a hot day, and they were expecting major consumption throughout. Whatever this crazy electric stuff, I mean, wherever the electricity goes, I don't know.
The grid.
The grid, there you go. They were ramping up for the grid, and they had all the doors in the facility opened up, and we stood outside, on ground floor. Had normal conversations, and also we stood outside on the 160-foot area out back underneath the towers. And we're observing all the land and stuff out back, and it was the same thing. Nobody was yelling. It was a relatively normal conversation. And I went up there kind of with the chip, thinking that, you know, the noise was gonna be one of the big problems. I was pleasantly surprised and tickled to death to find that there was, you know, we rolled up, went through the whole tour and everything, and then we decided, as we came out, we would get out of the truck, shut the truck off and do our, I mean, it was the same thing. I mean, I had seen vultures and that kind of stuff flying around. But we did, I heard, birds and crickets and I'm like, you gotta be kidding. This is, it's pretty amazing to be, that close to the facility. And that, I think that was my biggest concern going up there initially.
Yeah.
Was the sound.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, there's not, well, it is summertime, so you're not gonna see much, even at that point. But, there's just, it's so well regulated, you're going into that, like you said, going into that control room, holy crap, that's just, they're monitoring.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's impressive.
And it's not gonna draw a lot of traffic, there's only 24 employees.
Yeah,
so, you
right.
know, at any given time, I think there was like 3 to 5 people there, that's it.
Yeah.
I think it was three-man teams, if I was told.
Yeah.
Five,
But then they have
and
like
then
the
shift,
manager,
shift from
day
maintenance.
shift.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I've even gone as far as to think, as the wind currents change historically, I'm not a weatherman. I don't know, maybe he's qualified as some Amish people, I'm not sure. But in the winter, which prevailing winds are out of the north, where would that plume be blowing? South, away from town. Let's say they were proposing it on the north side of town. Might be a little more proposed to this. Here it is, blowing right into our town. Summer weather, out of the east.
Well, you don't get much wind out of it. You get wind out of south, you get wind out of southeast. You don't truly get much wind out of the east and out, that's storm.
But as far as a fog or anything of concern,
Or going back
There is
over the
none.
town.
yeah. So you look at stuff like that, and again, it's, sometimes you can screw down on this so hard that you lose concept of simplicity.
Yeah.
I just. You mentioned doing the best thing for Fairfax, you guys ought to be focused on that. I don't see an issue on this whatsoever. I'm saying my stance and crucify me if I'm wrong, but. The growth is gonna happen, whether it lands here or not. It's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, and we have some sort of control over what happens if it is. Where,
More
like
so
you
than-
say, if it's 100 feet to the,
Yeah,
out of our
East.
border, then
Yeah.
it's, or wherever it happens to land, it's
And
out
then-
of our control.
look at the company, Alliant.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. Alliant's already in our town,
It's my good partner.
and they've been a great community partner. I know I talked to Joe in Parks and he agrees, he's Alliance been some. And I think if historically, if you look in every community that they're in, they're a good partner. Could be something different.
Well, I don't know. Joe Kell went up to the plant this weekend.
Mhm.
You probably know this. Is it okay if I go ahead with this? Joe went up to put his ears on it and drove up the front gear. He was impressed with that. He didn't hear much noise. There is some noise. I mean, there's a little bit of an industrial type noise, but it's very, very loud. But the one thing Joe did do was go around and start knocking on some doors. And he knocked on some doors of residents across the street, which I is an outstanding thing to do. And that's 100% Joe.
Mhm.
And he was getting, his feedback from that was over the top. I think the first
Like, what was the daycare center?
one was the daycare center. And I think the first door that he knocked on, the guy had purchased a couple of years before the plant was started. And had lived through the whole construction thing and thought that they were a great neighbor to have. And didn't have any problems at all. Daycare was the same thing, they, I believe state regulated or some sort of government regulated daycare, so it has to be within certain boundaries anyway of, where they can place them, so,
I did some Google
kudos. to
map
Joe.
measurements on that Marshalltown plant to the houses. Probably some of them that Joe went to visit.
Right,
Distance wise to the proposed site here would be about to the north side of the park, or maybe right around where the houses are now.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it would be comparable.
and I mean, there's the one residence across the street from that is, you know, the only true, them and then Seltzer's place on 76 are the closest, which both are out of the city limits. But both are further than 1,200 feet, I think.
And Eric, on page 11 of that CID report, they do show a map of like the prevailing river, like a wind chart with the. I think they looked at historical weather data going back quite a ways, and what the percentage of, you know, the wind direction.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Well, we live here, we know how the frickin' wind blows. They can put all the charts up they want. We live in this town, I paint in this town, and I know when I'm south spraying, which way the wind blows.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
there's a lot of things to consider. We're talking about the future. And you guys are well aware of it, it just,
I just wanna bring up one point too. So let's say power plant doesn't go there. You know, I know at least one email and some comments that we had received is that people wanna see the cornfields and the meadows or whatever.
What's the other thing that's gonna bring up? That's not gonna happen.
No, Alliant bought that property for economic development and they want to put in businesses that are high electrical generating, you know, good customers for their.
Consumers for their stuff, yes.
So if the power plant doesn't go there, something else is going there,
Right.
which, you know, we don't have any idea if it'd be a good company or a bad company or what it would be.
The one thing I noticed from the council meeting was obviously, you know, people's concerns, we didn't really want Trevero there, and you know, we don't want the power plant there. Well, future land use for Fairfax is that's going to continue to build out probably industrial. And to the east of that, across our border, that is definitely gonna be industrial. That area is not gonna look what it did 10 years ago. I'm sorry. It's
Doesn't
just-
look that way now.
No, and those days are gone. I mean, that whole area is going to build out and it's gonna be an industrial area from Trevero all the way to
Edgewood Road.
Edgewood Road and Wright Brothers. That whole quadrant is gonna be industrial. And it's gonna, the same thing for us going all the way down Lefferbeer to Wright Brothers. I mean, the days of seeing cornfields and things like that in that area, those are long gone. You know,
Well, they're numbered, you know, there's a lot of that land controlled by a certain family,
right,
and that certain family is bitching about it right now. And that family also sold a share of the land for the Alliant property. So, you know, you can't have your cake and eat two of them. I mean, that's kind of, and also, if you weren't at the meeting, Tori Lefevere she's headlining the group. She's the main, person against the power line. They live out on the corner of Maple
Maple.
Valley and Red. And then, you know, first of all, they're not in the city, so they're not city residents. I don't know, not quite sure how that works for the city I don't understand. Can anybody come in and talk at a council meeting like that, or, I mean, are they not supposed to be a city resident to?
I'm sure the Iowa code doesn't address that. So that would be council and mayor decision whether
Okay.
other people are allowed to get in.
Right, so whoever, yeah, well, so anyway, I mean, that, and I'm all for, you know, people giving their input. You gotta hear both sides, and honestly, from my point of view, if the town's against the whole town's against the power plant, so be it. We've gotta listen to both sides of it.
right.
But we have weighed the situation thus far, and this is what we presented to the council.
Yeah.
And I think it's
We're still fact finding. I mean, that's, no decision's gonna get rushed
It
to.
would really, you know, it'd be nice to hear from folks.
Right, but there's still 2 more readings, correct? Essentially.
That's just for the special exemption, I mean, so that's one small step in the process.
Yep.
So did the Cedar Rapids ever get back to you about any like renderings of like the Google plan? I know we've seen the QTS one, so they were sent that.
We requested that, and so today, actually, I got an email that they have done, they're done compiling our request. And they have sent it to their attorney for review,
Okay.
and I'm not sure how long that will take, but you wanted to give me an update today, so.
So the QTS one is a closed loop system, right, but the Google one's not. So
Right.
that's the one that hasn't been publicly rendered, I guess, or released. So I was just curious what that looks
I
like.
just pay off wherever they need to.
And I don't know if everyone aware, the city's in the process of, arranging 2 informational meetings. Because, that's what we want is residents to get the information, then decide,
There's a lot of,
the facts.
like was said earlier, there's a lot of just whatever floating around out there, and, it's,
All Facebook groups.
oh, yeah, I mean,
A lot of people think it was sprung on without, but it was, there was really nothing that the city could, they did what they could do.
But anyway, so, October 1st, so Wednesday night from 6 to 8, and October 8th, the next Wednesday night from 6 to 8 here in this, room.
what was the first one?
The October 1st and October 8th, they're both Wednesdays.
Led by Jeff Penny. They're being led by Jeff and.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you were here.
Yeah, I'm here.
So hopefully information can be shared so residents can be informed. And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Alliant, we're hoping has a rep here, the DNR.
So I've confirmed with the DNR. He's working with me on trying to get a representative from Lynn County, because Lynn County will be actually who writes the permit for the power plant if it gets to that point. And then we
Will that be
are,
our friend from Lincoln?
I don't know what that individual name is. Yeah,
You're talking about like air quality permitting.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're the ones that'll do the study, and they have to study 5 years of weather patterns and all this different stuff. Like, it's a huge process for the permitting and all that stuff. And then we're reaching out to the Alliant people tomorrow to find out. Alliant's kind of a tricky one because they can't just send, they have 3 people that each know their own little part. So they'll probably come in a group of 3, just to answer any questions. But yeah, it's literally just citizens talking to citizens. We are planning on having 2 council members at each meeting. 1 yes, 1 no vote from the first vote. So the yes and the no in the first meeting will be Tom, Nuri, and Mary Ann Wainwright. The yes and the no in the second meeting, Dan Wozniak has confirmed. I'm still waiting to hear from Nick Volk. If Nick's unable to, then I'll reach out to.
Is that here?
They'll be here, yep.
So how's that work getting pushed out? So I can tell us.
So that's gonna be on the Fairfax facts, and Cynthia and I literally, we just started talking about putting this out there. Probably share it to the City of Fairfax Facebook page,
It'll be on our website.
the
Website.
website, yeah, just try to push it out on all the usual media outlets. So yeah.
Good.
So hopefully, we're gonna put together a little packet, which is some information, and it's literally just, it's all just sit down and
Yeah.
get valid facts out. So everyone's speaking, and we're not just making things up or coming up with hearsay and hypotheses. Should be hopefully very good. And then what information comes from that? And kind of the feedback that we get from that, I plan on taking to the council meeting on the 14th. I don't review it.
You guys wanna go through CIDs? Then,
So they're looking full down to they're concerned about the plume and their own ordinance, basically. So we think the guardrail about the ordinance, it's just,
I mean, obviously they have their concerns, I didn't see any like earth shattering in here, besides the fact.
That
that-
pink flags, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's around their future runway, which
There's a there.
isn't there. And. This whole thing, it's like. It's the Cedar Rapids Airport, it's not Fairfax, it's adjacent to Fairfax, no benefit to Fairfax. And I get they want to expand, but so.
Well, coming from you, you probably fly more than anybody in here, by 10 for. And I mean, you use that airport way more than most people do. And, it just doesn't have they're not doing anything for us.
And I get all their concerns, I do, because, I deal with a lot of aviation for work and. Understand and appreciate the concerns, not only for commercial air traffic, but also the private aviation traffic. There's a lot of private jets that come and go through here. A lot of hangars out there for jets owned by Cedar Rapids companies and local based companies. So yeah, I mean, I definitely get and appreciate their concerns, but, as a citizen of Fairfax and somebody that's on P and Z and somebody's looking out for the best interest of Fairfax, I have to take that into consideration as well, so.
It seems to me that the CID thing, one of their biggest underlying concerns was it was gonna mess up their grant process. That's what I read into it, and that's what they're concerned about the most. And nothing was really put forefront on that, but it seems to me that that's the biggest concern, is it's going to screw up the grant system for them. And
That, and then also there's probably some FAA issues that they'd have to deal with, but.
Yeah.
There's other airports around the US that are in way more congested areas than that, so. And they got that figured out. Yeah, I mean, you go any New York, LA, or Chicago, I mean, there's a lot bigger stuff around those than.
There was somebody at the council meeting the last council meeting, and he mentioned that,
Well, it was.
you mentioned that ADM's closer to the airport than
Absolutely.
the proposed.
Correct.
Now, I know the flight patterns taken into consideration, but what they're putting up in the air is gonna be a lot different than, for a plume than what,
Correct.
potentially than what the.
They're what, 300 something?
I don't know.
They're so.
That was a number I heard.
I sent the information to Cindy, they got one stack, I believe it's over 300 feet tall, they've got another stack, they have a power generating station, happy. They're self-sufficient, they generate their own power, so they have a stack.
They
have
were
a
Alliance
Felix power
large
stack.
customer in there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know.
Well, they're their own, they're not Alliant, they're their own, they used to sell back to Alliant,
Well, that's what I'm
Alliant
saying.
used to buy power from them.
All right.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have a power plant
Yeah.
with a cooling center. So, but yeah, when you talk about like the airport's report, they mentioned nothing about it.
Yeah.
They mentioned nothing about RTS,
Well, for that-
any of that stuff.
That was one of the comment I was gonna make, is this report that they put out, the airport paid for it too,
Yeah.
so.
Correct.
You gotta, not that there's Phil Wise, I'm not saying
There's a
that,
few
but
questions I had, like, where they were getting their information or numbers from, so, I mean. I gotta take it for what it's worth,
Right.
it's about me, but do I have questions on
I
some
don't,
of it? Yes.
I'm not smart enough to overrule anything they have there, but.
Any question?
No, I'll just highlight a couple of key points I saw here. FAA does not directly control local zoning, it expects collaboration to ensure airport operations remain safe and efficient. Collaboration is the key word there. Been on P and Z for 10 years, I've seen zero collaboration working with Fairfax during my time doing this. Or about, a proposed runway or potential issues with us expanding to the south.
Until
Now it is.
wanted to.
I know they had issues with our zoning code not meeting current code, obviously. For us, with a growing community, our zoning code is fluid, it's changing, it evolves over time. What we had in there 5 years ago probably doesn't match what we're doing now as we continue to grow and expand. Obviously, with this ordinance, that's part of the growing process, we're removing height restrictions.
Zero lot lines.
Uh,
Zero lot lines, I mean, that's.
That's
Right.
another thing, I mean, there's all sorts of things, so it is fluid. With zoning code, and again, we're one of the faster growing communities in Iowa, so. That's why the fluidity is there, you know, as we grow, you know.
Yeah.
What was once a large residential and probably small commercial area, that, you know, now it's getting bigger, more things when I come here, you know, industrial is expanding to the south. So again, that zoning code is fluid and evolving. The other thing I saw here was bright lighting and extended operational hours that may interfere with operations. Again, airports operate around big cities. I don't think one power plant's lights are gonna impact a flight in one part. Because of bright light. Airports, planes land in, you know, there's.
If, all the new lighting is regulated,
Right.
so.
Right.
You know, the only bright light is the light that's on top of the town,
So I thought that was kind of laughable. It wasn't there, I figured I'd mention it.
Yeah.
That construction site right now is pretty bright at night. You can see that glow.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, it's,
it's like a city.
yep, it is. No, quite literally. It is
24 hours a day.
So if that's, is there a computer talk?
Sure.
Okay, I don't know the rules. So one thing that you could look at doing though,
Captain Mayor, that's
like the city of Cedar Rapids, the city of Marion, larger cities, and I don't know if we have this or not. There's a light bleed ordinance that they have. Where you're only allowed, you have 0 light bleed at the property. And then you also have a vertical light bleed limit. So your vertical light bleed cannot go above a certain point.
Is that suit us?
The what?
Yes, students.
Yeah.
If we have
It didn't
adopted,
suit us.
yeah, we have adopted.
Yeah.
So that would be, in rebuttal to that, we follow those guidelines, this power plant will have to follow that, which means they can't have light bleed vertically or past the property line. So there's a rebuttal to that.
You're saying like a plate fixture needs to have a shield come in to look reflective down.
Another couple things I saw, regarding plume. I think during Lightbird winds, it affected 5% of the time. Like 95% of the time.
Yeah.
it'd be fine.
Yeah, probably 1.5%.
Probably, I don't know, I mean. And then it says a risk of turbulence associated with flight. It says risk, I don't see anything here that outlines what that risk is. Or anything that's quantifiable, you know, if there is, I'd like to see something about it. Not a turbulence expert, but it says the risk, I didn't see anything else on said risk.
It would be interesting to know how fast those gases are being released out of those stacks, like, is that what they're worried that's causing turbulence?
Well, they figured everything that they figured at the highest velocity. In this report.
Right, but I'm just saying, from Alliance perspective, how fast is that coming out, and does that cause any type of air turbulence? When it leaves, or is it just kind of like evaporating out and there's really not much air movement? Like, I don't know.
So they got that from Alliant, they say in their report, how fast it exhausts from their stacks. They say that Alliant gave that
They
to.
did, yeah, so they did get some data directly from one. I've flown over the Rockies too, so that's true, so.
Exactly.
Well, you need a certain amount of throw, right? So get it up and out.
Right.
So
I guess
the
it does
velocity,
some, but.
the velocity still gonna have a certain amount of its force, right?
Force there,
So
right.
it's gonna have the byproduct of combustion plus the air to keep it right.
Well,
I'm just wondering. if that's
realistically though,
enough
they've got to be clear the hell off flight pattern
To be over top of.
to be over top of that anyway.
Right, so when it
Otherwise,
dissipates,
the stuff that's bending over is not an upward.
right,
So, you know, it was a very vague analysis of things and the stuff that they came up with. Negatively, I think was
I forgot about this one, something about the horizontal service. Horizontal service established at an elevation of 1,019.3 feet with a proposed smokestacks elevation reaching a total elevation of 1,020.
Yeah.
Place the smokestacks 0.7 feet above the horizontal surface. So less than a foot.
Yeah.
So I wrote that down, I put a question mark, and like, so it said that was, yes, an impact, which I guess did exceed the threshold, so. I don't know, I mean, I went through this. Does the airport have some concerns? Yeah, should they? Yeah, I mean, they're looking out for their best interests, so are we. I didn't deep dive every line of it, but I did look at a good chunk of it. But
They should be concerned about the corn then too. Cause when the corn matures, when it's green,
Corn splits.
good,
corn
I know.
splits and releases humidity and it actually raises the temperature of
Oh, yeah.
the surrounding area. Iowa's one of the largest corn producing states, so probably shouldn't have an airport here.
5,000 gallons per acre, right? Something.
So that's a natural occurring process, right there.
I think major in science, so I don't know. That's what, most of this stuff is out of my realm of expertise, but I don't know, I obviously have to take into consideration, but again, at the end of the day, it's like, if they don't like the power plant going there, something else will go there, then everything else to the south is gonna get challenged on top of it as we continue to go south, so. That's my concern, that should be our concern as we move forward as a city. Based on. The new runway and everything else that's occurring this summer.
Well, they have given us an answer.
Right.
It's $1 million a year and we're good.
Did you have?
Anything we're missing, Cynthia? I rambled enough to. And if we got, anybody got any questions, anything you'd like to get more information on at this time?
Cynthia, I was looking at that report off of some other website, is there a way that could get emailed to us? For the report and
The what?
that,
The
yeah,
CIP.
report, or where did you find that online?
It's your packet.
Oh, it was in the packet, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Must have just got put in right. Thank you.
Yeah, we just got it,
Oh,
Saturday?
okay.
yeah, maybe, I think I
I'll
just
pull
put
it
it
up.
in there,
Thank you.
yeah.
You know, Steve, we,
You already click on the link I sent you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the information does get put on there after I first sign it out, sometimes,
Okay.
so.
A motion to adjourn.
Zach.
Thanks. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.